Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Chem 1211 with your host, me, Dr. White. Hi, everybody. And tonight, what I will be doing is I'm going to be going through a quick review of Test 2, which is really my final, and also the American Chemical Society ACS Final you'll need to take for this course. Now, before I go through tips on how to do that, let's go through what's going to happen next Saturday. And let me get up a calendar. All right, today's the 4th. This Saturday, the 7th of December, the 9th, 10th, and 11th, next week, you'll be able to take Test 2 and the ACS Final at the Glen Ellen Testing Center. You can only take those at the Glen Ellen Testing Center. And that's why I made it available also Saturday. Now, you can take both of them on the same day or come back and take one and then do the other. You're going to study the same way because both cover everything the whole semester. Now, let's talk about the Glen Ellen Testing Center. First of all, the people who run it and the woman who runs it is really, Lori does a great job in her staff. They've always been friendly to my students and treat them nice. By the way, if you're not treated nice, let me know and I'll let Lori know. If you are treated nice at the testing center, pop me an email so I can let Lori know her people are doing a good job and treating you well. She likes to get feedback like that. And they treat me well too. Well, you don't treat a guy with a beard not well, especially who knows organic chemistry, but that's another story. All right, now, next week is going to be crazy at the testing center. It's going to be crowded because a lot of students have to take tests and finals. Don't wait until Wednesday. Wednesday, it's going to be a madhouse. When you take, and I believe this is a procedure, if you're going to take both Test 2 and the ACS at the same time, I would first of all highly recommend take Test 2 first. I'll say that again. I highly recommend take Test 2 first. And if you do, and if you're taking them the same day, then you got to go back outside and wait in line to get the final. And I would highly recommend you get there at the latest by 1 p.m. Because if you come back and the ACS time final is a 55-minute time final, and you come back and you wait in line, you get in the line where they're going to give it to you, and it's 4:10, they're not going to give it to you because you need 55 minutes and they close at 5. So I'd highly recommend get there in the morning or before 1 p.m. I'd get there first thing in the morning and try and get there before the crowd, but there probably might be a crowd there anyways. But don't wait until late afternoon. Don't wait until Wednesday. Now, when you go to the testing center, you'll need a photo ID. When you go to the testing center, I would bring a number 2 pencil for the ACS because it's a Scantron test, or bring a hard, a lead pencil and a good eraser. These are lousy erasers, the art gum. These are fantastic erasers. I forgot what was written on here, but obviously you can see I use these more than the art gum, which I have one to show you. All right, now, test number 2, let's take a look at that. I'm getting out of student view. On the 1st of December, I sent out this announcement. You should also have gotten a email with the same thing. And I just covered this about when to take it. For my test number 2, which is really my final, but I have to call it test number 2, there'll be 25 problems, 8 pages, 3 multiple choice, and some multiple part. It'll cover 12 points from the material on quiz 1 and 2, 38 points on the material test 1, because that's the most important stuff we learned this semester. Quiz 3 and 4 will have 25 points. Quiz 5 and 6, 22. And quiz 3, I've got quiz 3, new material, fusion, and also half-life, nuclear half-life will be 3 points. Now, if you notice it adds up to 100, a while back I sent you that email that the chemistry department chairperson came out late in the semester. On your tests, you can't give extra credit. On your tests, you can't use important information like I've been doing for about 5 years now. Why she didn't come out at the beginning of the semester, don't know. And I never will. And I'll better keep my mouth shut and not say any more. All right. Now, because of that, there won't be any important information. But if you've done the practice problems and followed and done well on the test and everything, you already know this. And you just need a little help remembering it. And let me show you something that will help you. In the lecture section of Blackboard, this should have been renamed, and I just realized I never did. There's a file called Important Information Final Exam. This is the important information from the quizzes and the test. And these are things you should know. Now, how do you memorize things? You write it down and say it 5 times. Let's take a look at this one right here. How do you memorize 1 mole of a compound equals the molecular weight of that compound in grams, and the molecular weight is the sum of all atomic weights? Well, you take a piece of paper, oh, I forgot, you people don't read cursive, or a lot of you don't. One mole of a compound, and MW is short for molecular weight in grams. Then you do it again. 1 mole of a compound, and you say it when you write it, equals the molecular weight. And if you wanted to, you could write out molecular weight in grams. And you do it a 3rd time, and a 4th, and a 5th. By the 5th time, it's in your brain. Come back a day or 2 later, do it again. 2 or 3 times, it's in your brain. Same thing. Molecular weight equals the sum of all atomic weights. Then you write it again and say it, molecular weight equals the sum of all atomic weights. And you do it a couple more times. By the way, Dr. White was always the first one down in spelling bee. To this day, I'd still be the first one down in spelling bee. Thank God for spell check, not to bring religion into the classroom. All right, so that's how you memorize it. Yes, there's a lot to do, but the key stuff, you already know. You've used this. And another one you should memorize is this one. And the other one's on here. Now, how do you prepare for test 2 in the ACS final? You use the quizzes and test 1 as practice problems. Use the quizzes and test 1 as practice problems. I'll try either today, tomorrow, or Friday, put in an email because I've already sent it out, but the URLs for all the quizzes and test 1 videos. So you can go back and look at them. You were all sent a blank copy of test 1 because I couldn't hand back test 1 to you that you took from the test center. So that's available. If you can't find it, email it to me and I'll send you another blank copy. I would highly recommend all of you go back and look at test 1. Of all the quizzes and tests, a lot of you didn't do well on test 1. Also, that was the first time we had a lot of math, which face-to-face, same thing happens. That test, students do poorly. And then when we get into like gas laws and all that, they know what they have to study and do much better. Now, what I would like to do right now is go through a few problems that were on test 1 that you had problems with. And a lot of you had problems with this. Some of the scores were below 50 out of 105 points. Now, let's look at number 15. How many moles of potassium chloride are in 7.304 times 10 to the 27 molecules of potassium chloride, KCl? And as you've learned all semester, when I look at a problem, and you should too, what are you being asked to find? Moles of KCl. What are you given? The molecules of KCl. So here we have the molecules of KCl is the only thing we have to start with. We look over here and say we're trying to get the molecules of KCl, or moles, I mean. So use your good buddy. Ooh, last time I got to do this, wrong side. Your good friend, unit analysis. Whatever you're trying to get to, the units go on top of a ratio. Whatever we're trying to get rid of, the units go underneath. And where do you get the relationship of moles to molecules? 1 mole equals Avogadro's number, 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd molecules. Notice molecules cancel out, and we get moles. 3, 1 is exact number, 3 significant figures. Now, the ACS plays games. And a game they could play would be this type of problem, and they would ask how many, not this one, but they could turn it around and give you the number of moles and ask how many atoms. And first you'd have to calculate the molecules and then multiply it 2 because there's 2 atoms per molecule. And that's just the game they play, which is why I don't like that kind of test. All right, let's look at 16. A lot of you have problems with this. And the question is, how many moles of oxygen, O2, are in a sample of 0.848 grams of oxygen gas? Now, we're trying to get the moles of O2. When I'm done with this, I'm going to give you some important tips on how to do well on the ACS final. ACS stands for American Chemical Society, developed this standardized test used at a number of colleges in the United States, unfortunately. But anyways, trying to get the moles of O2, we're given a grams of O2. This is what we have to start with. We're trying to get the moles. We had a ratio. Use your good buddy, your good friend, unit analysis, whatever you're trying to get to goes on top of the unit, this ratio. Whatever we're trying to get rid of goes underneath. And remember, I just wrote 1 mole of a molecule equals its molecular weight in grams. 1 mole of a molecule, molecular weight in grams. And therefore, we need the molecular weight of oxygen. The molecular weight is the sum of all atomic weights. And you have 2 oxygen. Each oxygen is 16.0. Remember, the number underneath the chemical symbol is the atomic weight. And so it's 2 times 16.0, 32.0. Put it in there. 3 significant, exact number, 1, 3, and our answer is 3 significant figures. Again, go back and look at this. Go back and look at the problem set for this chapter on moles and do some of those problems. Hint, hold on. It's time for Dr. White to get very subtle. Don't you love when I'm subtle? Now, you should know how to balance chemical equations. And we did that. And I'm not going to go through it, but remember, leave oxygen, hydrogen last, and don't forget about the even odd rule. Go back and look at the video review for test 1. Again, I'll be subtle. Hint, know this. This one, most of you had real serious problems. How many grams of hydrogen gas are needed to react with an excess of nitrogen gas to make 76.9 grams of ammonia, NH3? We're trying to get grams of hydrogen. We're given grams of ammonia, NH3. You need 3 steps. And those are, and this you're going to have to memorize, unfortunately, convert whatever you have moles, mass of, to moles. Then go from moles of what you now have to moles of what you're trying to get to in grams. And then convert the moles of B to mass of B. Well, by the way, as a special holiday treat on test 2, there will be no limiting reactants. As a special treat on test 2, there'll be no limiting reactants. Happy holidays, almost. All right, so let's look at this number 20. The first step, we're given grams of ammonia. Whatever you have in grams, you have to convert to moles. So we have grams. We want to go to moles. And it's time to use your good buddy, your good friend, unit analysis. Whatever we're trying to get to goes on top of the ratio. Whatever we're trying to get rid of goes underneath. Remember, 1 mole of a compound equals its molecular weight in grams. 1 mole of a compound equals its molecular weight in grams. Well, the molecular weight of ammonia is the sum of all atomic weights, 1 nitrogen, 3 hydrogens. Do the math, and it's 17.0. And here you get 3 significant figures. This is one of those problems you can round off at the end or each step. As you know, Dr. White's an each step person, but I calculate both ways. Now we have moles of ammonia. Well, we want to get the moles of hydrogen. So we have moles of ammonia. We want to get the moles of hydrogen. Again, we have a ratio using your good buddy, your good friend, unit analysis. Whatever we're trying to get to goes on top of the ratio. Whatever we're trying to get rid of goes underneath. Where do we get that ratio? From the balanced chemical equation. 3 moles of hydrogen. When there's no number, it's 1. 1 mole of nitrogen makes 2 moles of ammonia. The coefficients give you molar ratios. So for every 3 moles of hydrogen, we make 2 moles of ammonia. For every 3 moles of hydrogen, we make 2 moles of ammonia. For every 3 moles of hydrogen, that's where I got the 3, we make 2 moles of ammonia. And now these are exact numbers, and we have this, moles of hydrogen. Are we done? No, we're trying to get the grams of hydrogen. So how do you convert moles of hydrogen to grams of hydrogen? We start with moles. We're trying to get the grams. We had a ratio. Whatever we're trying to get to goes on top. Whatever we're trying to get rid of goes underneath. And 1 mole of a compound equals the molecular weight of that compound in grams. What I don't have here, oops, don't look, don't look. The molecular weight of hydrogen is the sum of all atomic weights, 2 hydrogens. Each hydrogen has an atomic weight of 101. And that's where we get this number. And then that's how we do it. Know how to do this. All right, let me repeat. For my test 2, it covers the whole semester. I showed you the point breakdown. Use your quizzes and test 1 as practice problems. Go back and look at the review videos for those quizzes and test 1. And take that first at the testing center. All right, now, historically, when I give that face-to-face, students need only about an hour. I will give you 2 hours at the testing center because there might be distractions. So you have plenty of time. That's my test number 2, otherwise known as the final, but I can't call it that. Now, let's talk about the ACS final. But anyways, yeah, it is that bad. Don't get discouraged by it. First of all, the ACS final is a time final. You'll have 60 questions you have to answer in the booklet. you'll be given 55 minutes. And that's part of the pressure. Some of my students finish on time, some will. If you're running out of time and you haven't answered questions, I hate to say this, but start just marking down. You got nothing to lose if you're in that situation. Hopefully you're not. All right, next. When you're taking the ACS test, do the problems first that you don't have to calculate things. Do the ones that you can come up with an answer quicker. Then go back and do the calculated ones. Also, check units. If they're asking for volume and they give you grams, that won't be a right answer. So that helps you eliminate answers from the multiple choice. Again, check the units. Read the problem thoroughly. They like to play games and assume students won't read it thoroughly. All right, now listen carefully. Do not get discouraged. This is why I tell students to take the ACS as the second one, not to take my test 2 first and then the ACS. The last time I checked a couple of years ago for the United States, for the test you'll be taking or a similar one, the all US chemistry average for chemistry students who took that test out of 60 questions was 27 right. Now take a deep breath, let it out. Take a deep breath, let it out. One, this test's only worth 5% of your grade. I've tried to neutralize it. Second of all, it's the only time in any class I've ever taught I curve it, and that helps too. So it's only worth 28 points max out of 560. So it's a tiny, but it could make a difference. What I'd recommend is, again, do the easier problems first. Relax. If there are a couple of problems like 4 or 5 or 6, what's going on? Guess. Because remember, out of 60 questions, the average score on that test is only 27 right. That means 33 of those questions the average student gets wrong. I would never write a test like that. I don't think I could. If I wanted to, I just couldn't. But anyways, don't get discouraged. Now, historically, my students do better than most other students on the ACS. Usually my average instead of 27 is like about 35. They only got 35 out of 60. That's pretty good on that test, really. So I've actually had a number of students who have gotten 40. I think over the years I had 5 or 6 students got over 50, which is phenomenal. I think if I took it, I'd get 1 or 2 wrong. You're always going to get something wrong, but I have a PhD in chemistry. I better do good. All right, so that's it. Let's review what's important coming up. Next week, Saturday or Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, at the testing center only at Glen Ellen, you need to take my test 2 and the ACS final. You can take them on separate days or the same day. Because of the massive crowds, get there in the morning. Also, because of the large turnout or heavy use there, don't wait until Wednesday. Try and get it done Saturday or Monday or Tuesday. Get there in the morning or right around 1 p.m. That should give you enough time to take both of them, I think. But if you can't on Tuesday, say, that still gives you emergency if you have to do it Wednesday morning for the ACS. Take test 2 first. Now, the other thing I think I mentioned that I allowed, but they don't allow in the ACS, and now I can't allow in my test 2, You can't have a graphing calculator, which I don't know. You know, the one with the big window here that you can graph? Because students have found a way to put in formulas and sheet. You need a regular scientific calculator. If you don't have one, they'll give you one, but I bring my own because you know how to use your own. So make sure you bring your calculator and it's not graphing type. And with that, I will tell you this. I'm going to be sending out an email probably Friday that if you liked what I did in this class, go to ratemyprofessor.com and let people know about it. If you really like what I did in this class, send an email to the Dean of Math and Science, and I'll put her name and email address, and also copy the acting president of COD. If you're going to write an email like that, write it, let it sit for a day, and look at it again and correct it, and then send it, because you're sending it to very important people, and that reflects on you. And that's about it, other than you've learned about my world of chemistry, which is now your world of chemistry, and it's a lot of fun. But then I'm biased. I'm an organic chemist, and I like this stuff. So with that, I should say, because of the other school requirements, I will have office hours next Monday and Wednesday. If you want to stop by, say hello or whatever, or if you need help or questions about anything. If you need special help before Monday, email me and I'll see if I can set up a Zoom meeting if anybody needs special help. And I've done that all semester. Don't forget, the second extra credit project is due, I think, next Tuesday. Send in your copy before then for me to check. It's real easy. The reason I popped that in is because the chairperson said on test you can't have more than 100 points. Which historically on that one, I have 10 points. So that's why I put the extra credit project. And it's real easy. It's not hard. Should take you 10 minutes or less to do. And send it off to me by email before Tuesday, and I'll tell you if it's correct, what to correct, so you get your 10 points. And with that, I'll stick around if anybody has any questions. And I'll say, Gehen gesund, which means go in health. By the way, my best friend just caught a real bad cold from his granddaughters. So watch out. It's nasty out there. I still wear my mask in the supermarkets. But anyways, Gehen gesund, and bye now. I stole that from Granny to Beverly Hillbillies. Bye now.